Welcome to another 7C video. In this video, I was going to cover just the basic card types and go over some of the various icons and some of the basics of how cards work in 7C. So here laid out on Octagon, I have all the different card types in 7C. Starting at the top, these are the 5 Cs. 5 Cs are placed at the beginning of every game and shared by both players. They're just basically the various locations where your ship could be at. The Cs themselves don't have any game text, and they're placed in the same order from every game. The indicator here is on the bottom right-hand side. You can see here the mirror is placed in one side. Likewise, Forbidden Sea, the indicator is in purple, next slot over, and La Boca being in the middle, and then Frothing Sea and Trade Sea on the other end. So you lay out the Cs, and then the first thing you would do in a game is reveal your captain and your ship. So here is your ship. The ship shows in the top left-hand corner the faction with which that ship could be used for. So here, this one can be used with a Sea Dog's captain. And in the top right is the move cost of the ship, the wheel and sailing. So here, the ship has a move cost of 3. 3 is basically the amount of sailing you would need to produce to move the ship. And also, this type of icon shows up on various card effects that you will need to pay. So a card may show a ship's wheel +2, and that would say that on an attachment or an action, you need to pay your ship's move costs plus the additional. And finally, here is the captain. In the top left-hand corner, captain is basically the key to the game. You lose the game once your captain is sunk. That's one way of winning. And the captain has a bunch of icons on them, some of which are on crew, some of which are unique to a captain. So in the top left-hand corner is the captain's starting wealth. This is important because when you flip over your captain ship in the beginning of the game, the next step is you're able to choose your starting crew, and the starting wealth tells you basically how many resources worth of crew you're allowed to start with. Below the starting wealth is the faction icon. So here, Captain Bonnie McGee is in the Sea Dogs faction based on that icon, so she goes with the ship. And then below that are the different types of resources. So if you were to, with both captains and crew, you produce resources by tacking. Tacking is very similar to Magic, where you turn it to the right, and at the end of turn, it will untack. If you tack Bonnie, you can produce a number of resources that give you different effects. So just going through them all, the flag on the left is cannon. The next flag is sailing. The next is adventuring, followed by influence, and lastly, swashbuckling. If I were to go through all those really quickly, a cannon lets you pay for that cost, but it also allows you, if you're in the same sea as another ship, you could tack and produce cannon to create a cannon attack. The sailing here allows you to pay for sailing, but also if you want to move your ship, you could pay your ship's move cost by tacking crew to produce sailing. So here Bonnie produces 3, and the ship has a move cost of 3, so she could tack to move the ship. Next is adventuring. This allows you to complete adventures, play actions, attachments, or number of cards in the game with an adventuring cost requirement. Next is influence. Influence is used to buy crew and also can be used to buy attachments and other things as well. And lastly is swashbuckling. Swashbuckling is important because it is how a crew absorbs hits. So any crew can tack to absorb their number of swashbuckling hits, and then crew can also, if they're already tacked, or even if they're not, they can sink to absorb an additional number of hits equal to their swashbuckling. In addition, during a boarding attack, crew basically will inflict hits if they win a boarding attack equal to their swashbuckling, and then some other modifiers. In addition to those, there's our game text, and then basically any keywords are in bold. In addition, captains have an additional set of text of starting sea. So here it shows that Bonnie starts in the Forbidden Sea, just here off center. So that's where you would start the game with Bonnie. Different captains have different starting seas, so some captains will be in the same sea, some will be all the way across the board, and some will be right next to you. It really depends on the captain. Next up are crew. Here there's a number of crew that could be used as a starting crew for Bonnie. Here you can see on the top left is the cost. So here he costs 5, he costs 3, he costs 1. That would equal 9. So they could be a legitimate starting crew. The cutthroats here are unaligned. I should point out that unaligned crew can be started with any captain. Likewise, there are some ships that are unaligned that can be used with any captain. And there are even captains that are unaligned, but they can only use unaligned crew and unaligned ships. The crew have the same number of resources, the same 5 flags they could tack to produce. And then here in this case, there's various keywords. This one has heroic and a gunner keyword. This crew has the loyal keyword and no attachments. Those are loaded keywords. Loyal means it can only be played with a captain of the same faction, and no attachments should be self-explanatory. You can't attach any other cards to this card. Likewise with cutthroats, they are unaligned, so loyal would not be applicable, and they have the no attachments keyword. The next group of cards are actions. Here, so here there's a various actions are often either dagger attack or slash. I'll get to those later in another video, but that's related to boarding attacks. But here, some actions have no cost. This one here just targets a villainous captain, allows you to sink a crew and draw 4 cards. This card is very strong. This card here has 2 different types of cost boxes. You'll see very often there'll be a cost in the yellow box. This one costs 3 adventuring. The way the ordering works is you announce the action, play it onto the table, then you pay the costs and say, I am attempting to play Red Skies at Morning. So this action has a built-in cancel box, and that gives the player an opportunity to cancel the action before there's any effect. So here in red, the opponent could pay 3 sailing to cancel this action before it takes effect. I should also note that in the last 2 sets, Iron Shadow and Searing the Secret, they did a redesign of the frames. So here you see a card in the new frame, but it has the same types of cost on the left, cancel cost on the right. But it should be noted that it's a lot harder to see the difference. The cost has a slightly bluish tint at the end of the flag, and the cancel cost has a slightly yellow or reddish tint. And some cards will only have one of the flags in the new frame and in the old frame. In the old frame, you might see a red cancel flag or a yellow pay, like cost flag. Here in this one, this is one of the newer frames, and it's a cancel flag where it has that slightly reddish tint. And this card, you play this card, and the opponent has the opportunity to cancel it by paying their ship's move cost plus 0. So just the ship's move cost. Next up are adventures. I mentioned before, you start in various seas. She starts in the Forbidden Sea. Adventures basically say how far away you have to play them. So here you could play this adventure 2 seas away. This one you could play 1 sea away. And then they have a cost and a discount cost based on a certain requirement. Adventures could be crew attachments. This adventure here, in the middle you can see ship attachment, and then they have various keywords. Some adventures, like Crossfire here, in the top right-hand corner, it attaches to a singular crew and provides a stat bonus to that crew. So here it's a crew attachment, it attaches once it's complete, and provides +4 cannon. Certain Powder, however, attaches to a ship and provides a global benefit. Also, it should be noted that various adventures have different keywords. So here this one's 2 seas away, but it also has an artifact keyword and a loaded keyword called unique, where you can only have one of them on the table at a time. Next set of card are attachments. Attachments can be a ship attachment. Attachments could be captain attachment. They can even be specific to a certain type of faction and captain. They could have a cost, or they could be free. So here, Cat of Nine Tails is a villainous crew attachment. It can attach. Now's a good time to mention that captains are crew, but crew aren't always captains. So Cat of Nine Tails here could attach to your captain as a villainous crew attachment if your captain had that keyword. If your captain doesn't have the keyword, you could attach it to any other crew that had that keyword. Here we go with captain. Captain here is a Sea Dog captain attachment. It has the unique keywords. You can only have one on the table at a time. It has the pet keyword, and this one costs 2 adventuring to play onto the table. Cheap Sails, meanwhile, has the new frame with a slightly bluish tint on it. So this would cost 3 influence to play, and it would play onto your ship, providing a benefit. The last type of card to cover are Shanties. Shanties came out in the later sets. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but maybe Reaper's Fee, might have been Fate's Stat. The last few sets had Shanties. The way Shanties work is either player may play a Shanty, but you can only have one in play at a time. And if another player successfully plays a Shanty without it being cancelled, it will sink the one in play. Regardless of who played it, that goes into the sunk pile. So here's a Shanty. It should also be noted that Shanties have various different types of boarding attacks. So when you're thinking about boarding later on and building decks, picking out the right Shanty could help balance your deck depending on what you pick. So Shanties here, this one, rewrite the rules. When you attempt to play it, you play it on the table, you announce, I'm playing rewrite the rules, and then the opponent here, in this case, there's a red cancel flag. So the opponent could cancel the card before it hits the table. Other adventures have a way to sync it once it's already on the table and provide the effect. So you could play this adventure or this shanty as an action, and then as a following action, any opponent could pay 3 adventuring to sync the shanty based on its game text here on the top. Different shanties may have different types of costs to sync. So here, this one says you would sync this by attacking both your ship and your captain as an action. And this shanty has, almost all the shanties have global modifiers that could affect both players, or in some cases, just one, depending on just what the qualifications are. Here is another shanty. This one has a cost and a cancel cost. So here, you have to pay something to play it out. Your ship's move cost plus 0. And then the opponent would have the opportunity to cancel it before it hits the table and takes effect. Shanties have a bunch of different abilities too, so it's just something to look at when you're building your deck. Just think about if a shanty is appropriate for the deck and if it provides a benefit. But like I said, you can only have one in play at a time, and they're sunk when another one comes into play. So that covers all the different card types. In the next video, I will be covering different types of actions.